and then he got murdered.
What country was this?
Listen, I think he would go to Nepal for his herbs, and then he converted to Buddhism, moved over, and then got murdered. Like, it's just super weird. But either way, his medications were magic. Yin Yang interconnected system.
Sure.
The body also acts like the real world, and I want to get down to when you literally are putting a needle. I don't know what the term in acupuncture is for it, but when you're putting that needle in, when you're affecting this part of someone's body, what is the theory behind why that works somewhere else?
So let's say you have like a stomach issue, like a sudden stomach cramp. There's a point that I would use like right on your thigh, like right.
So, hello, I am Joshua Royland, a strength and conditioning specialist and owner of Sweatshirt Fitness. Our guest today is Jeffrey Li, a recent acupuncture graduate.
That makes more sense. And the best way I could describe it was, I spent my entire life like studying the head side of a coin. And now I have to flip that, and now I have to learn everything I learned from the head side is now I have to throw out, now I have to learn the tail side.
Mm-hmm.
And so how it works in the sense that the body is seen as a system, like a very one unifying system.
Yes.
There's a book in Chinese medicine called The Web That Has No Weaver.
Oh, that's a wonderful name.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
So it explains how this system connects to this system, how then it connects to this system, while also having connection to this system. Now, you do have this in Western medicine, but Western medicine takes more of a reductive approach.
Breaks.
Yes.
Rather than puts together.
Yes.
100%.
So they'll explain like, oh, this cell does this, and this disease affects these. So if we want to treat this disease, we have to take this medication that specifically targets these, but it doesn't take into account other side effects, and so there's more medication coming in. Now, whereas for Western medicine, for Eastern medicine, acupuncture, we have something called Yin Yang theory. So we have, opposite theory. Then we have the 5-element theory and how each of those correlates to a different aspect within the body. And for me to go through that, it's going to take way longer than I think we have a lot of time for. But
again, the thing for me is a lot of time. This is where I would say that my application of my limited understanding of that type of belief system is, maybe they don't, to see someone not in knee pain, to see that person where, and it was amazing because someone told me, oh, I felt knee pain last night. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, man. Let's keep working on this. He's like, no, that was great. And I'm like, what? He's like, I didn't realize I had forgotten what knee pain felt like.
You kind of lost me there, I'm not gonna lie.
Since working with me.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I noticed that I was feeling knee pain, and I hadn't realized that I wasn't feeling knee pain.
What was his beforehand? Like, did he have an injury?
Constantly.
Oh, okay.
Just constantly. It was just long term.
To the point where he was used to it and he didn't notice it anymore.
And he was just constantly in pain. He was constantly. So he's like, I realized that I hadn't been having pain.
I see.
But those are the things I live for. So in selfishness, that's the way where you bring positivity to people and you gain the emotional benefit of that, eventually brings wider benefits to both your life and other people's lives.
Sure.
Because rising tides bring up all boats.
Yes.
So let's move more into the body again, because this is talking more about the wider world being a yin yang, connected, interconnected system.
Sure.
The body also acts like the real world. And I want to get down to when you literally are putting a needle. I don't know what the term in acupuncture is for it, but when you're putting that needle in, when you're affecting this part of someone's body, not literally this part of someone's body, but idea wise, what is the theory behind why that works in somewhere else?
So can you just give me so I'm going to use a quick example. So let's say that you have like a stomach issue, like a sudden stomach cramp. There's a point that I would use like right on your thigh, like right above.
Okay, so literally what I was pointing at,
And so the theory behind that is this point is connected to your stomach in the sense that there are channels running all throughout your body that correlate and connect to certain organs. So these points, when stimulated, can affect those organs. Now, the point that I specifically, like, let's say you have a sudden stomach cramp, The point that I said, like right above the knee, is for acute conditions, so like very sudden issues.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
So that's why I would use that. Now, let's say you've had like a very chronic like you've had chronic back pain, like
It's
along
a
your
different
spine.
point than it would be for instantaneous pain.
Yes. So there would be 2 points, one on the hand that we call small intestine 3, and then one on the ankle that we call bladder 62. That those 2 points, when used in one treatment, will be able to essentially relieve pain along the entire spine. Now, that again, that's just more of the metaphysical, but there's the theory that like the farther away the point is in relation to your issue, the stronger of an effect like it will have. So let's say you have some dizziness. Very strong points would be like on the feet. I know that sounds extremely weird.
No, it doesn't to me. When properly applied, the force through fascial chains. So I'm looking at this, trying to connect Western and Eastern, because ultimately a lot of Eastern medicine uses metaphysical concepts to describe the physical reality of what's happening.
Yes. Thanks.
So the Western attempts to understand why what's happening is happening. And what happens is ultimately Eastern allows a longer time period of study into a certain subject because it keeps a continuing like spiritual and metaphysical understanding of it, like longer term. Like these concepts have existed for 10,000 years.
Yes.
That only can happen when there's a deeper level of study than just a scientific method that requires a deeper alignment of values within a culture than just a series of experiments.
Okay.
That's very easily lost. That's very easily found. It takes 300 years to develop that type of knowledge, and then it takes 50 years for that knowledge to be destroyed.
Yeah.
When it's more of a cultural, metaphysical thing, that can build. So the way I would understand it is, if you're impacting here and it's impacting in there has to be a like fascial, a tissue chain, series of chains that initiates a response.
Now, going back to that, it's funny that you bring up the fascia, because there recently was a discovery within the Western medical community that there's like this overarching organ that connects everything. Whereas in Chinese medicine, we have something goes by multiple names. We have the sanjiao, the triple burner, the triple warmer, the triple something along those lines. That can be, in the Western sense, it could be related to the myofascial network. And it's just funny that you mentioned that, because like the Chinese medicine has like acknowledged the existence of this organ for so long, and only now, like in the past maybe year or two, has the Western medicine made that a discovery.
Caught up.
Yeah.
And the difference again is the understanding of something's existence based on its impacts versus the understanding of something's existence because you can see it.
Yes.
So they're both evidence-based. It's just one is saying this works, it exists.
Yes.
The other is saying this works, it doesn't necessarily exist until I see why it exists.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's placebo. No, like you have to understand that something can be there that you can't just see yet. So that's where Western medicine throws out too many good ideas, and Eastern medicine might not necessarily study things as objectively.
Yes.
But they're needed. Yin Yang.
Absolutely.
Yin Yang, both are needed, because one allows continuing knowledge to be passed down for longer periods of time.
Yes.
The other allows us to finally look at and understand why certain knowledge exists.
Yes.
So again, the reason I brought that up was because of a lot of recent research, and they did some research in mice showing, certain fascial chains like initiating things that go on. People didn't realize that fascia actually has contractile properties. So
yeah, that I would agree with that very much so. And it's not, and it doesn't just like, for those of you who don't know, fascia is almost like a layer of plastic wrapping over your muscle that exists throughout your entire body.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just keep your muscles tight. It also, again, like you said, does have contractile properties, because we all know, we've all heard of myofascial trigger points, that it's it could either be in the muscle or it could be in the fascial network, and the only way to get that is if you have a contractile property.
And even if you have only the small, they've shown that the small contractile properties of fascia impact the actual fibers in the muscle that are causing the major problem. So it's the contraction of the muscle that has the strength to cause the issues that are actually caused by the fascia. So the fascia goes like this, and the muscle goes like this.
Yeah.
So obviously how the fibers actually slide, sliding filament theory, but the basic idea is there. And that for me would be there has to be a chain that connects the fascia from your knee going up through your pelvis and into the area around your stomach. There has to be a chain there.
Yes. Now, granted, can we see that? Like, can we dissect a human and find that? No, but it is there through, again, centuries and even millennia worth of trial and error.
And that is why it is so valuable when there is something that you won't or cannot discover in the realistic future, but you can take advantage of.
Yes.
So the theories behind it, let's go into the most basic metaphysical theory, because we talked about myofascial chains and some of the basic ideas on how the needles can actually literally manipulate the fascia, and they've proven that the needles can, when properly inserted by acupuncturists, visibly on microscopes, interact with fascia.
Oh yeah.
So then, now that we know there are effects, but we can't prove every effect because we're not at that point in Western medicine yet to be able to see that. Western medicine's proved you can interact with fascia and it can affect local muscle.
Yes.
Which local muscle affects fascia higher up in the chain, and that's where Western medicine has finally admitted there's something there. But it's still too complex for us to get close to understanding the full system. What are the actual metaphysical concepts that you guys use to create a model of this system and then take advantage of it? So let's go with the simplest concept and then work our way a little bit deeper as we can over the next 5-10 minutes.
So I would say metaphysical concepts, I would say, and I'm sure we've all heard of this term, qi. Qi is essentially the energy that we all have. You can always tell, someone's vibe is off, or someone's aura, or someone's energy. That is a form of qi that everyone can exude or take in, and we can use that for certain things.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I'm sure like George Dillman, that's not how it works.
I hate that people have done that.
Yeah.
The McDojos have taken and destroyed very valuable concepts that because I'm very, very, very into this sort of stuff, and there are some very stupid people who misunderstood and destroyed the valuable ideas that are there. So explain what it actually is.
So qi is, again, just energy that we could just use, and it's primarily used for healing. Now, excuse me. The main ideas behind acupuncture is your body is always in a state of balance. In Western medicine, that's homeostasis. But in acupuncture, it's the idea of yin yang or yin yang in balance. So if you have too much of one thing, if you have an excess of one thing, it'll cause issues. If you have too little of something, it will cause issues. So, going back to yin yang, you can have excess yang or excess yin, or deficient yang and deficient yin. And that can cause a bunch of different issues, such as, being constantly cold. It could be, feeling very hot at night. It could be, tinnitus. It could be vertigo. It could be all sorts of. It could be even stomach cramps. It could be,
Let's break it down. What is yin and what is yang, and what does that mean to have balance between the two? So yin would be.
So yin and yang are two halves. We've all seen the yin yang circles. So yin is darkness. It is feminine energy. It is cold. It is water. It is tangible, physical. Yang is the exact opposite. So if yin is cold, yang is heat, warmth. If yin is female, yang is male. If yin is physical, yang is more heavenly, like upward rising. If yin is contracting, yang is expanding, forces and energy, and just that concept. And so if you were to have an excess of yin, you would feel cold, and that would be typically well, I'll get to that later. But if you have a deficient, like if you have too little yin in your body, you have too little cold, so therefore you feel more hot. Now, alternatively, if you have too much heat in your body, you'll feel hot. But if you don't have enough heat, then you'll start to feel cold. So again, if you have enough, you'll feel, if both of them are in balance, you'll feel comfortable. Whereas, let's say it's 60 degrees and you're shivering and you're freezing, then you're most likely yang deficient. But if you are, let's say 30 degree Fahrenheit, it's freezing outside, and you're sweating, then you most likely have a yin deficiency. So it's a balancing of warm and cold and cooling energies in the body.
So how would that relate to qi, and how do these concepts actually relate to your treatment?
Okay, so qi now is a is a form of yang energy. So the yin version of that would be blood. Now, in Chinese medicine, we have this concept that blood produces qi, but qi controls blood. And what I mean by that is the blood in your body produces qi. So, let's say you are feeling cold, you eat some red meat, you produce more blood, therefore you feel more warmth because your blood produced more qi. And that energy allows your blood to flow and have healthy blood flow and circulation. Now, the problems come when, this healthy flow of blood and qi gets constricted. That's when you have pain. So you've had jujitsu, I'm assuming you've had injuries from jujitsu and wrestling, where you'll feel like a knot. That's what we call a qi and blood stagnating. So that's when we would insert the needle into the blood, into like the tender area, and promote healthy circulation. Now, you would know that as like a knot or like or like just a bruise or something. We would see that as qi and blood stagnating. So that's just one form of how we treat, if we were to treat like an injury. Now, let's say you get a cold. That's what we call an invasion. So the 5 elements in Chinese medicine are wood, fire, earth, metal, and water, and how each of those elements create the next step. Now, contrast that, there are the 6 evils. There is, and I'm a little fuzzy on this, so excuse me if I get a little wrong.
I think that most people are fuzzy on all of these concepts. Okay. So anything that you say will be illuminating. So that's the important part, because for me, this is a lot further in than I've ever really been able to go. And I'm now getting all of these ideas on how this could apply to Western physical medicine. And it'd be too tough to go into right now, time-wise, because we could sit down and I think you and I could have like a 5-hour conversation with no break and not have an issue intellectually, but just to raw time. The 6 evils, and then I'll kind of give my thoughts on that.
So the 6 evils are wind, fire and summer heat, dampness. That's 4 of them. And I always have trouble remembering the other 2. Do you mind if I look it up on my phone real quick?
No, that's a problem. Fire and summer heat are separate?
Yes. They're similar, but in practice, they are different.
Okay, and how would that be different than the yang energy, which is hot and good?
So again, it goes back to excessive yang. So, you should feel warm, but you shouldn't feel excessively hot. Okay. You shouldn't be sweating just from sitting. You should feel warm and comfortable, but, let's say you're sitting at home watching TV, you shouldn't be all of a sudden just breaking out into a sweat. That would be an invasion of, let's say that happens in summer, that would be an invasion of summer heat. Now, let's say you're sitting right next to a fireplace and you start sweating, that would be an invasion of almost fire. Or if you're out in the sun a lot, then that can also be potentially fire.
So then you would say summer heat's basically heat in the air. Fire heat is heat that's caused by a direct light source or heat source.
Yes.
That would be like the physical description of it rather than the more ethereal description of those concepts. And again, these all have communication with the realities that are both, like you said, on the side of the coin. So there's the physical, there's the spiritual, and the understanding side.
Now, just really quickly, because
Yes.
I found the 6 evils. They are wind, summer heat and fire, damp, dryness, and cold. Because as you can
You got
see
a
right now,
little bit of dryness right now?
Yeah. I have too much of. Don't have enough. I have too much yang and not enough yin to moisten my throat. So therefore, it's dryness, so I'm coughing. So I'm like trying to clear my throat. Now, you said that you wanted to talk about the Western aspect. So, you mentioned before how acupuncture needle manipulation of a certain, when inserted to a point, can have an effect on the fascial network. Now, it was also noted that when acupuncture needles are stimulated, and even just the insertion, going back to like the actual treatment, if you notice that an acupuncture needle gets, if you have an acupuncture needle inserted and you notice like the spot is getting like slightly pink to red, just like a little bit around the area, that's actually a good thing. That means you're having a reaction to the needle. That's normal, and that just means that the needle was used correctly. Now, what's happening is it's causing like a little bit of, it's causing, going to Western, it's causing macrophages, causing eosinophils, causing red blood cells, white blood cells. Yeah.
Just to break it down to the simplest term for most people to understand.
It's causing a slight bit of the inflammation, and as we both know from Western, inflammation is part of the healing process. So it's I
hate when people think that inflammation is bad, and that's why I'm not a huge believer in the Rice method. Rest, ice, compress, elevate, because that's removing the blood, what you would probably call the yang energy, which ultimately in certain acute injuries, the yang energy, the heat, the inflammation is required to get the actual nutrients to the area, which would be described differently to you, but need the nutrients to get to the area, need the healing factors. All of the inflammation isn't necessarily bad.
And
chronic
to touch on that, the person who created the Rice method actually, maybe it was a few years later,
retracted it.
Yeah,
and it's still used
because it's just gained so much garner. And the main reason why people use it is because the ice feels good.
It's simple.
Yeah,
it's simple. Simple things catch on, and once they catch on, it becomes a mind virus. And one of the issues about true Western medicine and getting into real Eastern medicine is it takes thought. It takes looking at what's happening currently. It takes looking at what's happening historically. And then it takes looking at trends, which is why there are people, there's a guy, the Max Alding system of exercise and nutrition, and it was developed in the early 1900s, and he was way ahead of his time. And everybody who worked with him had amazing results. Everybody who saw his methods thought he was ridiculous. But Western medicine has caught up to what he was doing, so he was 100 years ahead of his time. Eastern medicine is effectively thousands of years ahead of its time. We're not going to discover some of the things for a very long time. And some of the things we might not really understand why it works, and it just depends. But ultimately, the Rice method is good for
it has its
very little.
It has its place for the very maybe 30 minutes of that injury.
Acute.
Yes.
There we go. Yes, this is big. I'm so glad we agree on this. When would you apply the Rice method? I know when I would and what I tell people to use, but that one method that's so popular, everyone knows, let's give them the actual tool on when to use it.
I would say for the Rice method, don't use it more than an hour, and even that's pushing it. I would say the golden period would be maybe immediately right after to maybe 30 minutes right after the injury. And afterwards, just motion is lotion, just move that area.
Oh my gosh, people think I'm ridiculous when I say that. I say motion is lotion. That legitimate same sentence.
Now we both, you use motion as lotion, other people use movement as medicine, but the idea is get that area moving so that way you can promote that healthy blood flow to the area, get the body's systems flowing, all the white blood cells, the inflammation, everything that takes things, that brings nutrients in, takes debris out of the area. Just get that area moving so that way, your body can do what it does effectively.
If you want to talk about metaphysical, an object in motion stays in motion.
Yes.
That doesn't just apply to physics. And as we get into the wrapping up phase here, I'm just going to say my thing. I'm even more specific on it than you.
Sure.
With the micro application of that, which is, I think it should only be used if you're actually performing in a game or a performance of some sort.
Yep.
Because I think that it allows you to mentally block out the pain using external stimuli. It keeps you in that performance at a higher level because the pain is limiting you less. And basically, it's allowing you to take advantage of pain-reducing properties without using medication.
Yes.
So then what you can do is push through an injury, effectively doing more damage.
Yeah.
But if you're relying career-wise, if you're relying scholarship-wise on the performance in a game, and if your coach is at the point of saying, you need to do this, it's a short-term solution where you are understanding the impacts long-term. So I'm very careful with using it with people because it's very easy to have people go and continue to injure themselves more.
And it's also, it should be mentioned that most of the, like you said, career and scholarships, most of those athletes are in the prime of, and if you watch Naruto, I'm a huge anime fan. But
I'm a huge anime fan too.
So you're in the prime of your youth. Like, you're at the point where your body is functioning at its physical peak.
Yeah.
So therefore, you can you don't need as much recovery time, but you're still doing damage. And what the inflammation is doing is it's essentially preventing you from doing more damage to your body. And it's also part of the growing process. Now, obviously, you would take, you still need to recover, but it's almost like putting a block to the recovery process. But if you're younger, you are able to recover more quickly. So that's why, coaches typically give it to their athletes, but it's only for like the younger crowd. Like someone like me who's like 27, I starting to get to the point where I can't use that as much. I have to rely on other methods for recovery.
You can, if you're willing to sacrifice your future for what you want right now.
Yes.
That's what this ultimately is, and it's a balance. It's a balance of the yin and yang. And like you said, the yin energy would be taking the contraction of just, I'm going to contract these blood vessels. I'm going to take advantage of this cold, but I know that I'm ultimately doing damage.
Actually, so if anything, it would be taking advantage of more yang, because you're trying to use the yin, but in reality, you're trying to use the yin, you're trying to ice it, trying to heal it, but in reality, you're just using it more. You're going more excessive, more yang, more like pushing forward, more energetic. Whereas the yin would be to actually take the time to rest.
Okay. What I'm implementing here is it's a damaging process used for pushing forward.
Yes.
And
I think that's why actually maybe so many athletic careers are so short, because of that.
I talked with that was why I actually had an engineer on, because he had an athletic career. It was cut a little bit short, but I think he could have probably, if he stuck with it and had the proper trainers and people with the proper mindset, he probably could have gone Olympics, nationals, high-level performer, because he had an emotional drive behind him that was significantly more than what the people around him allowed him to do, because they forced too much volume on his tissues too quickly. He was on a running program with the team that had people running races at the pace that he was running, but his body wasn't ready for the type of training required by them. If he was properly ramped up to the type of training they were at, his performance in races would have been calibers above those people. Because some people can train at a certain rate and they're training here and their performance is here. Other people can train here and their performance is also here. I think if he went performance training here, he would have been performing better than them. And then I think if he was performing here, his training would be where they were training. And then if he was training just a little bit above that, it's like nationals and Olympic level, rather than just, I'm a very good runner on a D1 school, they're overtraining me. It would have been, I'm training so much less than those guys. Why am I running the same as them? Oh yeah, this is how my body reacts to training. Oh my gosh, I finally worked my way up to the volume and the way they were training, but it took me an extra 1.5 to 2 years to work my way up there. Yeah. Wow, now I'm performing like 30% better than them. Oh wait, now I'm doing the extra work because I have the mental drive and capacity to do that, to take it slow. but I'm not being forced by the trainers to do it extra, I'm going to perform that much better. I'm going to take our time to do a quick wrap up. Basically, about students, keep yourself humble. Stay relaxed in your routine and allow yourself to flow through the life that is multi-paths. Understand that there's a lot of decisions.
Explore your options.
Exploring options, that's huge. Don't fall for the Kruger effect because you think you know so much, you don't know as much as you know, and that's always going to happen.
It's going to come back to bite you in the butt.
It really will. Yin and Yang, the idea, although I won't understand it entirely, is keep yourself in balance.
Yes.
Work-life balance, health balance, whatever that is. Congratulations on passing.
Thank you.
I look forward to seeing you as you move into the future, and we can talk a lot more for part 2. Ultimately, I think that we kind of hit that there. For the athletes looking to prevent injury, only use the rice method. Very, very limited.
Actually, for the athletes, advice I would say is do not neglect your flexibility and mobility training.
Yes.
Because
Glad you said it.
Because I have a friend right now who he weighs like 175. He benches 185. He squats 285. And I'm nowhere near those numbers, but he has like such bad flexibility and mobility that he's 22 and he's already experiencing back pain. And I told him like, okay, well, this is what you need to stretch. And he goes, oh, wow, yeah. He does it for like 30 seconds. He feels it, and then he's already feeling so much relief.
Yeah.
So do not neglect those things. Even if you see don't think ballet is like girly, actually, or yoga's girly, like actually implement those, because
yes,
you will find that, again, the yin and the yang, you need the balance to.
We're gonna go way more into this on our next podcast,
okay.
which hopefully will be soon, because we've got a lot more to discuss. But for right now, you have to go. Is there anything else that we have to say?
I don't really think I do. Just if you guys ever, because I just got my license to the audience, if you guys ever want to book me for acupuncture treatments, just message me at Jeffly1213, JEFFLI1213 on Instagram. And I specialize in musculoskeletal stuff, but again, I don't just focus in on that. I can do a bunch of other treatments as well, and I can treat you for your specific needs.
All right. Thank you very much, Jeffrey. And for anyone listening, stay happy, healthy, and safe. Wonderful. So